Ready?
Barf.
Barf.
Put that in your video.
Okay, I will.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of
U-News,
where you can be the reporter. And don't forget, top reporter of the month will take home this coveted Tumbler, Corn-Fed Life Tumbler.
I know, I covered it.
All right, well, let's jump right into the news today. We start off with a little runaway horse story.
Yes, and then next we'll have a story on the British pound and why it has suddenly plummeted, and then a commentary by Corn-Fed Craig on the new direction that a Kansas City has taken on legalizing marijuana.
All right, so just north of us up in Nebraska, a horse broke away from its owner and ended up requiring help from firefighters to escape from a swampy area. The Nebraska Humane Society said 4 officers responded to a swampy area near Cunningham Lake in Omaha on Sunday after a horse named Dakota fled from its owner and became stuck. Help was summoned to the scene from the Omaha Police Department and firefighters to help Dakota to safety. The horse was reunited with its owner after a rescue operation lasting for about 2 hours. And there was a very similar horse runaway story just a year ago. And that was
these horses.
And that was in New Hampshire, where once again, police and firefighters and members of the community came together. And that was to save a horse named Stetson, who also had fled from his owner. The rescuers said they were making only inches of progress at a time, causing the rescue to last about 8 hours that time.
Ooh.
So let this be a lesson to all you horses out there. If you try to run away, you will end up in the swamp.
Yes, and nobody's going to save you if you end up spending like 12 hours to be rescued.
Don't be so non-compliant, horses.
Another non-compliant thing lately is the world currency, starting with the British pound that's taken a beating. So the British pound tumbles in value to a 37-year low. The value of Britain's pound tumbled on Monday to its lowest point against the US dollar since 1985. The pound dropped 5% early Monday to 1.0327 as bond markets continued to demand rates in return for investor cash at levels last seen in 2008. That's not a good sign. Last week, the Bank of England voted to raise interest rates over concerns that the British economy might be entering a recession during a pervasive energy crisis that's gripping most of Europe. So there's a clue why this is going the way that it is. I think it might have something to do with a switch towards green energy and the effect that it's having on the economy. So the forecast was adjusted from the original 3.6% growth of the economy of Britain by the end of 2022 to 3.4%. So it's a 0.2% difference of predicted economic growth based on declining real incomes and disruptions in the energy markets. According to The Guardian, the OECD, I guess you got to look up what that stands for, something to do with Europe, said it believes the British economy will be flat in 2023. The poor situation in the UK exacerbates support for the US dollar, which can track higher again this week, says Joseph Capurso, head of the International Economics at Commonwealth Bank of Australia, according to Sky News. If a sense of crisis about the world economy were to emerge, the US dollar could jump significantly. The euro took a step back on Monday as well, falling to a 20-year low against the US dollar, as concerns continue to grow over a global recession. Earlier this month, an analysis by the Washington, D.C.-based World Bank said rising interest rates and various market conditions around the world could lead to a global recession next year. So It does not looking good world over. The organization said policy actions amid a string of financial crises in emerging markets and developing economies, along with central banks hiking interest rates to control inflation, could make the difference between a recession and no recession. So we'll see how it goes. It looks like the US dollar is still holding strong for now, but it looks like the rest of the world's economies are getting kind of scary. But I don't think that the U.S. economy has much longer until it will start taking a dive as well.
Yeah, with all the prices we see out there, it's things are not looking good.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So, for some more good news, we have a commentary by Cornfed Craig on the state of Kansas and what direction they're going with the use of marijuana.
Yeah, so if those of you that don't know about us, we are West Coast transplants. Part of the reason we transplanted ourselves, to be specific, we are organ transplants. Part of the reason for our transplant is we did not like a lot of the direction that the West Coast was going, and we noticed this, years ago when marijuana was first legalized. We noticed a distinct downturn in a lot of factors about our lives out there, and it was like, and it kind of inches it in. First they said we're gonna legalize it for medicinal purposes, right? And it didn't take long after that until they were like, oh, we're just gonna do recreational as well, and the homeless people started moving in like crazy. The streets started getting filled with people with the backpacks, just roaming around looking for drugs, and it just petty theft just shot up. Like your car's not locked, it's gonna get opened and searched. They're just looking for change, and we talked to a cop out there who said that basically they're looking for stuff that they could quickly pawn to get $30-40 just to get their next hit. And it's just it basically ruined. It turned the West Coast, a once beautiful place, into just tent cities everywhere, even in the smaller towns, like where we were from, a small town, but there was tent cities everywhere, and the people would move every so often when the cops would chase them off, and they just set up somewhere else and leave mounds of trash everywhere and make the city look ugly. A lot of them you could see right from the freeway, so people passing through would think, oh, what a dump this town is. And anyway, to jump forward, so we moved to what we thought was a very conservative, state right in the heartland of America, and but we're sad to report that the biggest city here, Wichita, has just recently decriminalized marijuana in the city. So in our state, it's technically still illegal, but in the biggest city, they've decriminalized it, meaning like, yeah, it's illegal in the state, but if the cops grab you, they don't care. If if you've got marijuana and stuff, they're not going to bother you. So it's just a sign, because that's how it was in Oregon. It was like it comes in slowly like that, but then it'll quickly progress to where it's like they're just going to say, oh, we might as well just legalize it everywhere. So it's sad to see our state head in that direction, and we don't know where this is going to go, but we have a good inkling because of what we saw on the West Coast. So yeah, very, very sad news for Kansas, a state that was once known for its good, solid family values and traditional principles and everything, and looks like we are going in the wrong direction. So hopefully, yes. Let's hope that this is just an isolated incident, but it's and that nobody else jumps on this bandwagon, none of the other cities. But it's hard to not be skeptical.
Yes, I just watched a video, or heard secondhand about a video, where somebody asked about marijuana use in South Dakota, and I guess there was a referendum and it was supposed to be put on the ballot and passed in the election to go ahead and start using marijuana legally in South Dakota, but the governor nixed it because she thought it would be bad for their society. And she is 100% correct on that account. So you need strong leaders to, instead of being greedy and wanting the tax income from,
Right.
would rather protect the agriculture, because this is a big problem for farmers. The marijuana plant takes an excessive amount of water, and it really drops the water table all over. So it's bad for agriculture, and it's bad for the economy as a whole, because a lot of times people grow marijuana and they don't pay taxes on it because they're of a culture prior where they're not wanting to obey the laws. And it brings in a lot of crime to a society. So just like what Craig was saying, it's the wrong way to go in a state. And I really hope that we have some strong leaders here in Kansas that'll stand up for Kansas and not let it go by the way that these other states are going.
Right, exactly. And as a lot of you probably know, or maybe not, they don't report it too much, but fentanyl is becoming one of the fastest growing ways of death of people, of young people in this country. And why do you think that is? It's because, in my opinion, so many people start on marijuana, then they want to move up to, more advanced drugs, and they want a big, pretty soon. The thing with marijuana in itself, it's not really that dangerous. It's, it is what it is, but it creates people wanting that high, and then pretty soon the marijuana just, they want something more. And it's just that gateway drug. I know everybody says that, but it's true. And then they lead to the next thing, and then that's when the fentanyl comes in, and it's really becoming a huge problem in our country. Like, thousands of people are dying because of fentanyl, and that's because they've moved on to those next drugs. Most people don't just jump right into hard drugs. They start with marijuana.
Right. And the reason why marijuana is known as a gateway drug is because it alters the user's mind slowly through the years, so that they're eventually unable to make connections with people. They can't form meaningful relationships with people, and they also have like a high inhibition dismissal rate in their brains, where they think, okay, well, it's all right to start harder drugs because, what can it hurt? Because they don't have those inhibitions anymore. They can't form meaningful relationships, and they have much less empathy. So if they see something bad happening to somebody, they're not going to stop it, because their brain has changed to this doped out brain that doesn't care about anything in life, and they are no longer contributors to society. So it is a dangerous drug in that it changes people into people that don't care about anything meaningful, and can't have like a good solid relationship in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we don't want to end on that depressing note, in other news, these two just got back from their anniversary trip up to South Dakota, which we were just talking about, and had a wonderful time.
Yes.
There is a lot to see and do in South Dakota, and I highly recommend it as a vacation destination. Probably not in the winter. We understand the winters are pretty harsh there, but this time of year, it's beautiful, and there's a lot to see and do, and we really enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I loved it.
So make sure to check out South Dakota when you're out vacationing in the Midwest. And also Nebraska. We went through Nebraska and a little bit of Iowa. And in Iowa, what did we find there that was pretty awesome?
The Palmer's Chocolate Outlet Factory.
Yeah. So, Palmer's, they make the Easter bunnies, but they also make so many other candies.
Fine chocolates that I've never tried before.
Yeah, and, coming from the West Coast, we're used to See's candy. I don't know if See's is from the West Coast. I know they do have factories in California, I was going to say, yeah. But when you walk in See's and throw down $50, you probably walk out with, a small portion.
Yeah.
But we spent $50 and got so much candy.
Yes, and it's fine chocolate is just as good as C's.
Some's for gifts, okay? We're not down in $50 of candy.
Well, I don't know.
Ourselves.
I'm kind of helping my mom along on that.
Anyway, well, thanks for joining us today, and make sure to send in those news reports. We'd love to get some more of you on the air with us. The description of how to do that, or the instructions, are in the description below. And it's very simple, 30 to 60 seconds of your time, and you can be the next reporter on
U News.
Thanks for watching. God bless.